Hi, good morning again in a different mode, and hopefully this is coming through. Tuya would like me to tell you about the time schedule that she invented. Okay, so I'm trying to just get this all together. This morning we will be discussing lightly initiations 4 to 7, and that starts now, and also continues in the afternoon. I don't think, goodness, the chart reading, I'm not sure what we'll do about that, but we'll read everybody's chart okay, anyway, we have some work to do on the general ideas behind the 4th through 7th initiations. And now let's see, is anybody translating for Risto? Is he okay? Okay. Okay, good. I try to... Okay, very good, very good. We have been rather intensive about initiations 1, 2, and 3, and even so, we have only covered just a few paragraphs. So obviously this can be an ongoing thing. We have compilations that are 40 and 50 pages and 90 pages, and we have covered a few paragraphs. But probably you get the idea, okay? So now we're going to head into an area which is really in the future. And some of what is here is actually facing the masters themselves. Yeah, dear. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So life.
You better start again. Now I have you on. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I was just saying so many wise things, and Michael puts
Say them again.
Michael just put me on now. So anyway, we are welcoming all of you to this day, this very important day of the full moon in Leo, and the Leo full moon, as we have been talking already, is one of the most important full moons for coming times for whole humanity, but nowadays it is certainly important for disciples to be aware of it. And about our schedule, that because this is the living situation here, so that's why the sudden changes may happen, and this is the main thing what is now here, the Mystery School Week. I'm sorry, Mystery Week of Blue Rose here. So if there comes those changes, just be aware of it, that it may really happen. And we cannot give you any longer notice that it just appears on the screen. And about the initiations, the initiation is the self-forced process. All people who are interested about spiritual life and spiritual teaching, they are those people who have been deciding some millions of years ago to go through this process. It was given by hierarchy, this possibility for certain human beings to do that. And what is the reason is that in moon chain there has happened something which is called failure of the moon chain, but it was related to all kinds of things of the failure of our solar logos. And planet Venus is our altar ego or our soul, considering the earth, and we should be on the same level than Venus. So when we are masters, the fifth degree initiates, only then we have reached the point where we should be. So that's why this process is hastened, speeded up on planet Earth, and that's why our hierarchy is working all the time, desperately trying reach us, and the full moons are those times when hierarchy is reaching us. We talk quite a lot, and if you think about whole teaching of Tibetan, one of these great things of his is teach us for the initiation, for the next step. Whatever is the past for us, have we gone through the first initiation? Do we head towards the second or third? Or to the first one? The whole humanity is heading towards the first one. Whatever it is so important because we all create the web of humanity. We belong to that web. You have been marked by the solar angel those millions of years ago that okay, and whatever is the mystery behind all of us, what was that thing that made us to evolve or made us to yearn the spiritual life, to yearn towards the fifth kingdom of the souls, the kingdom of God. And then little by little our consciousness was rising and awakening, and we started to think deeper and deeper. And these lives, when we are talking about particularly this life, when we have the time of the forerunners, the time is so important. It is for hierarchy, this testing time, to look how this group, who should be working now together, how this group is able to take the load of the hierarchy, to carry forth the weight of the light. That's why every single of us, we have our own different issues. We have to be very honest to ourselves. Okay, these are the things what must be changed. And we should not listen anybody who is there around us, because it is a fact that always there appears a choir, I call that choir, who is trying to smoothen your way. Oh, it is not so important. Don't worry. Well, again, there is enough time. There is, but there is a cycle which is now going through the whole planet, and we have to keep that cycle. Even hierarchy does not know how it is going. Master DK, who is teaching a lot of also other masters, disciples, is all the time emphasizing about that this what is on planet at the moment, what is upon humanity at the moment, every single disciple has to be doing the work for themselves, to be really looking what is the next step, what are the things for me, what I have to do. And these counter forces has to rise, because the more we approach, it is the law that counter force has to come. It is upon humanity now, we see it everywhere. We have horrible things when we think about the climate, these challenges. When we think about plant kingdom, we belong to one whole. If any other kingdom is suffering, it is us who is suffering. Animal kingdom has a lot of problems. So there are things for us to realize, and these 7 years that we are going through, remember this. We are ending this life. Let's say the majority of us, when we talk about these groups, we are older. How many years we still will have? 10, 20 years, 30 maybe, if we are very lucky.
Some are younger.
Yes, some are younger, which is very good. But when we think about these facts, we have to establish a point for us. We started from certain point when we started this incarnation. So somewhere we have to land and look this for yourself, the goal. What is the goal for you? Where you want to be when you live this life? Because it will affect the next life. And the next life may be even that when the Christ is already here, or the next second, because it is absolutely so that he will be very soon, if we manage to do our job, if humanity manages to do the things. And it all depends on disciples. It depends also the men and women of goodwill, but the disciples are the key players in that. So that's why these impulses what are coming to you, the soul is sending. You make sure that you are listening, you are available for that, communicate with your soul, and then obey. Obey those higher spiritual things, what you should do. Otherwise the change will not happen. And this initiation process is the process of hastening, the speeding up. It's not the slow process. That's why it's more difficult, because average humanity is going the natural way. We evolve anyway. There is no worry about that. The plan will move forward even slower or faster. But if we realize that there is an opportunity now upon the whole humanity and upon the disciples, and in that sense for hierarchy too, we are able to now gain back some of the lost time. So that's that.
Thank you, Tuija. Before you see a chart. It is the Tibetan's chart from whatever page, 820, 817. It'll come up. And this, Tuija reworked this, and when we think about initiation, we have to think about the cosmic physical plane. Now, we have discussed a little more in depth the first, second, and third initiations. Not anywhere near what we have yet to discuss. But notice that at the first initiation, it is the etheric physical plane, here in violet color, which is important. And at the second initiation, the hardest one for most of us, it is the blue area, the astral body, which has to be controlled. And that takes a long, long time, and that's why perhaps there is such a long period between the first and second initiations. Okay. Then we go to the orange area. And
I'm sorry.
You turn off your
yeah.
Okay. Then the third initiation, the transfiguration, is a mental event and involves all the other parts of the personality, and the mind becomes truly radiant, and you can focus in the egoic lotus. You can focus in the temple, in the causal body. Now, those are the initiations which mostly concern us. Those are the only initiations that Master DK is training anyone for. I have this peculiar thing, you know.
What?
Okay, well, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. It'll all be okay. You know, with a new computer, you know what you go through when you try to learn how to do it. Anyway, today we are going to talk about areas of expansion that lie beyond us. We are talking about how to focus on the intuitional plane. Now, every once in a while, we may receive an intuition, and it's not about ourselves. If we receive a real intuition, it's about the divine plan, the divine purpose, in which we might play a tiny little part. So that would be the fourth initiation, the ability to focus on the intuitional level. Okay. Then we talk about where the masters themselves are focused, in the green area here. And the masters are not yet totally in control of the Buddhic plane or even the Atmic plane, but that's where they focus. Just like the analogy is, look, we focus in the mind, but we're not in total control. Okay? We don't know all the powers of the mind. We don't know them yet, but we can do something, okay? Or we focus in the astral body in order to spread love, but we do not control all the devas in the magical process, not yet. So it's the same with the masters. They focus on the Atmic plane, the fifth plane. It counts, right? I mean, you know, they are the fifth degree, and that's where they focus. But they have not complete control. But that is where a master of the wisdom can indeed find the focus. Their ashrams are somewhere else. The first ray ashrams, will and power, they are focused on the Atmic plane. The second ray, fourth ray, sixth ray ashrams are focused on the Buddhic plane now, because there's been a big, moving up. And then some of the scientific ashrams, like maybe fifth ray ashram somewhere, maybe a third ray ashram, they are focused on the highest level of the monastic plane, the subplane of the first subplane. So the masters are not yet walking around on the monadic plane. Not yet. Maybe a few first ray masters have the key to Shambhala, a few. But we're talking about initiations today. I wonder, it's more to give a view of the future. We're talking about what lies beyond the masters, to become Chohan. And they are no longer men as are the masters. The masters have the five-pointed star. They become the five-pointed star. They become the totally advanced human being in the kingdom of souls, but not the Chohans. Chohans are beyond that. And then we're going to be very adventurous and focus just a little bit on the seventh initiation, which involves this logoic plane, this sea of fire. And as I said, the Christ is achieving this, and the Buddha is achieving this. They are not yet complete, because the seventh initiation takes a very long time. These higher initiations tend to take longer. It's a whole process. Okay, so the Christ and the Buddha, by the end of the Aquarian age, they will have finished with the seventh initiation. And then they can, sort of come and go on the cosmic astral plane, which is above this diagram. The cosmic astral plane, let's see, what have we got here? Let's see, I see what the problem is. I may be in for a little bit of a freeze. I hope not. There. In that picture. in order to really advance as a monad, you need to leave behind the cosmic physical plane. And then go into the blue area there, go into the orange area there, in terms of cosmic planes. And finally, there's one path which maybe the Christ is on one day, and our solar logos is on that path in a way. It's the path of the solar gods, the path of the solar logoi, and a few eventually may take that path and become a solar logos, and that goes to the cosmic Buddhic plane, the yellow area where you see those 7 triangles. So it's a tremendous destiny that lies ahead of us. You know, I was thinking to you that, do we have a fan? Are you afraid of a fan here? Because I was just wondering, I mean like a little fan for the floor.
We have this big
or something for the floor,
yeah,
which could just kind of blow the air a little. Let's see if we can get that going. Anyway, we have an amazing destiny ahead of us if we can follow correctly. How many times have we been through this already? How many universes have there been? You cannot number them. You cannot count them. So we do this over and over again, and there's been no beginning, and there will be no end. And that's hard for the mind to understand. How there can be no beginning. Doesn't everything have a beginning? Well, there's one thing that does not have a beginning, and that's what we are. And everything is. It has no beginning, because there's just nothing else than it. And that's an amazing thought, and Madame Blavatsky somehow gets into that in The Secret Doctrine a little bit. So, you know, everything's okay. I'm reminded of the wise teacher. His name was Meyer Baba. Have you heard of him? Meyer Baba. He was silent for 30 years. That's a long time to keep your mouth shut. 30 years of no talking. He was Pisces. What are you going to do? Okay. Pisces is good for that. You don't hear the fish saying too much. Okay, so Meyer Baba, when he decided he would talk again, after 30 years, his words were, "Don't worry, be happy." Don't worry, be happy. Well, he must have seen something. He must have seen something. And in this universe of ours, you cannot be destroyed. You can't even be born. You just always were, and always will be, the real you. So behind whatever we talk about in this drama that we call the universe, this play, this dance, this whatever it is, lies what we really are behind all this stuff. But meanwhile, we have to have a good play and a good drama and a good dance, and we have to live up to our own plans at the beginning. So this is a wonderful map. It comes from page 344 of a treatise on cosmic fire, and it shows us some very advanced beings, of which we are the tiniest little atomic part. But it's just the beginning. This is nowhere near even the galaxy. And how many galaxies are there? You know, millions and millions. And excuse me, sorry, maybe even more than millions and millions. And how many stars are there in galaxies? How many solar logoi? Trillions in some galaxies. It's a big universe, and yet it's only a speck compared to the absolute. So enjoy yourself along the way. Now, of course, I'm talking to myself while I'm talking to you. I sometimes have to remind myself to have a good time because, you know, this is my universe and your universe, and we're doing this, we're making this, you know. All right. So when you reach the fourth level, you're taking the fourth initiation. When you reach the fifth level, you're taking the fifth initiation. The monadic plane, the light, this indigo area, is involved with the sixth initiation, and the logoic, the sea of fire, where the Christ and the Buddha, and well, they're ahead at the moment. You know, maybe there were other greater beings earlier, but right now they are the great teachers, and they can focus on the logoic plane. And it'll be a long time before we're focusing there, you know, thousands and thousands of years, but okay, maybe even millions, but we'll get there inevitably, because we're already there right now. And that's, you know, a mystery. All right. Now, I'm just hoping that all of this is working correctly. These are huge subjects. Big, big. On Makara, I started working from around page, I don't know. Maybe I can see where I started working over here, because I did it differently than I thought I would do it. In the Alice Bailey books, for the 14 rules, I wrote everything out carefully. Okay, and then I decided, that's fine, but this is too slow. This is never going to get completed. So then, I started a different method. And let's just see where it goes. I think, let's see, where does page 300 take us? Okay, yeah, right after page 300, somewhere in here, I started to record the video. And to the end of the book, which has, you know, like 700 pages in it. And there's a lot of material. Here it is. Boy, there's some marvelous things, just marvelous things. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but right now, anyway. Every advanced initiation is discussed. 4, 5, 6, 7, discussed in quite great detail. And so this starts from page, part 2 starts from page 321 to the end of the book. And we go into these initiations carefully. A full discussion, which I can't do now, okay? But if you're interested, go to Makara, and in the video part of these commentaries, you will find those discussions. And it's a big study. It will take you a while, okay? So I'm just going to hit the high points, in a way, of this. Now, we'll take up the idea of the fourth initiation first, and here's a 40-page compilation, and there's no way we can do it, okay? But this is the goal of humanity. The fourth initiation is the goal. Why? Because you free yourself from the influence of the previous solar system. We're in the fifth solar system right now, but we're in the second major solar system. So our ray is ray 2. There have been a lot of solar systems before us. Our solar logos had different bodies. The solar system is a body. And now we're in the fifth solar system and the second major solar system. And in this solar system, our immediate goal, anyway, is to take the fourth initiation. Very difficult to take, we are told. And a lot of people, just because they are suffering a little and having a hard time, they think they are taking the fourth initiation. You know what I mean? But don't forget, to be a human being is many things, but it also means to suffer. Now, our planet has a nice name. I think I mentioned this before. This is the planet of releasing sorrow and purifying pain. That'll get you, right? I always remember PP, purifying pain, releasing sorrow and purifying pain. And when we finally graduate from planet Earth, we are able to make a good judgment between what is soul and what is personality, what is spirit and what is matter. We really learn the difference. Now, the fourth initiation releases us onto the Buddhic plane, out of the influence of the previous solar system. Then we can really get going with the program of our present solar system, that great second ray program. What's happening, dear?
No, I didn't find.
What's that?
No, this fan.
Oh, okay.
It's somewhere.
Believe it or not, friends, here in Finland, we have very hot weather. It's almost like the climate is changing. Has anybody ever mentioned that possibility? Okay, so we're just trying to figure out how to be human and to get a fan, and all that kind of thing. And we can't find one. Okay. Okay. So anyway, from the dense physical body of the solar logos, now take a look at the map. The lower 21 subplanes are the dense physical body of the solar logos. We get out of that dense body at the fourth initiation. That's why it's so important. We enter what is called the cosmic ethers, the higher levels of the etheric body of our solar logos and our planetary logos too. There's some questions there, but I won't get into those details. Suffice it to say, it's a whole new program. And that's where the liberated beings are working. They're working starting with the intuitional level. Now, I don't think I can, I'm afraid I can't, I'm not sure I can trace this. What I'd like to be able to do, I have Tuya's charts, but I would like to also get the other charts to show you what I'm talking about. And let's see, maybe I just can't find that here, unfortunately. I had a really good map that another student had made, and it doesn't look like I can bring it up. Maybe I'm just missing the point, but I don't think I can do it. Anyway, suffice it to say that on all these different levels, there are different powers, and, well, let's call them psychic powers. Different abilities, and the Sanskrit word would be siddhi. Different cities are found there. And we're just beginning to learn about what they are. In cosmic fire, for instance, I guess I can get into cosmic fire, and I guess I can go here to page 188, and you will be familiar with the evolution of the senses. You know what? I can't type. This is incredible. Why is this? Why won't it let me type?
Do you think that it is somehow broken?
188. I'm trying to type and I can't go anyplace. All right. So let's see. Stanzas of Xian, and I want to get to page. I want to get to page 188, and it's not. And I get the word for. 88. I don't know, I have a new keyboard here, and it is disappointing me, unfortunately. I can't make it disappear. Okay, that's it then. I can't do anything. However, yeah, I just can't do anything. I don't know why this is working out this way, but it is. 188? No. It's not allowing me to go where I want to go. Okay. Suffice it to say then that there are all these different powers on the different levels of the higher planes. And we're just beginning to learn about them a little bit. Now, before we are a fourth degree initiate, we have to look at the higher mental plane, like a third degree initiate would. And we will find three powers. On level number 3, we will find spiritual discernment. You can always see the spiritual pattern behind whatever's happening. Then on level number 2, this sub-level, we have response to group vibration. Response to group vibration. Level number 1, where the lowest part of the spiritual triad is found. Do you know what we have? You know what is the... Sometimes I should just ask you, right? What is the spiritual power that is found there? Okay, it's called spiritual telepathy. And then as we start rising onto the Buddhic plane, when we destroy the causal body, that happens at the 4th degree, the monad helps, the buddhi helps, the jewel in the lotus helps, the atomic triangle helps destroy the causal body, and then we focus on the Buddhic plane. So we have, I think it's called comprehension of the 4 sounds. Then we have divine vision. Then we have, no, the divine vision is 3rd. We have healing, some kind of healing. Then divine vision. Then intuition. And then idealism, or something like that. Those are the abilities when we are a 4th degree initiate that we can begin to access. But it's not about our personality. It's not about making us somehow a better person, because we have taken care of all of that already. We can't be a third degree initiate unless we have taken care of a lot of those problems. I just wish, now I'll tell you what I can do. I can make life easy for myself, and I can go over to this other computer, which will quickly take me to page 188, so I don't make any mistakes. And then we continue, as a master would continue, onto the atomic plane. Now, we cannot develop what a master has yet, but we can receive something. Okay? So we have just talked about the fourth degree. When you're going to the fifth degree, you will develop what's called, on the lowest level, beatitude. We have heard of Christ's Sermon on the Mount, speaking of the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who, for they shall, blessed are those who, and so forth. On level number 6, just above, active service. It's the higher correspondence to healing. Level number 5, it's the higher correspondence to divine vision. It's called realization. Realization. Level number 4, in the middle, it's the higher correspondence to intuition. It's called perfection on the atomic plane. And the master has that, and it's not universal perfection. It has to do with our globe, the local scene. And finally, the highest that we can reach, and the only one that is given, the highest power, is called all knowledge. Well, it's not obviously all knowledge in the universe, but in our local sphere, it's all knowledge. So look, we're on our way, by building the Antakarana, into these higher worlds where the masters are focused. It's a struggle to take the fourth initiation because it has another name. The name, the Great Renunciation. And Master DK says, look, if you want to prepare for the giving up of what? Your whole personality, and more, the giving up of your entire causal body. That's quite a renunciation, because that was everything, all your best, right? This was your treasure house. This was where you kept all your valuables, The nice thing about it is they all disappear, but they don't disappear. The essence of these things rises into the spiritual triad and are stored there. So, Master DK says, it's kind of funny, he's talking to a Libra man. Now, he's still a master, right? He's a master, and he's talking to a man whose sun sign is Libra. And, it's just so, he says, I am remembering, my brother, falling in love, the greatest of all glamours. And I just have to laugh, because here he is in his spiritual triad, and he's remembering life events long, long ago when he was falling in love or whatever it was. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that all of your memories are lifted up into the triad. And then eventually they're lifted up into the monad, and you can see that in the graph, in the chart. So nothing is lost. But the limitations are lost. That's what's lost. So we go through all these renunciations. How can I give up my personality? Do I dare to do it? How can I give up my causal body? But remember, whatever you give up, you get back many times, okay? Do I dare to do it? Now, there's a story in the Bible, in the New Testament, about a disciple who was a very accomplished disciple. And he's called the rich young man, right? Rich young man. He's an initiate of the third degree. And Christ says to him this horrible thing. Take all your possessions, sell them, and give the money to the poor, and follow me. Oh boy, that was a bad day for the rich young man. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it because he was attached to his treasure house. But look, I can do this for people and I can do that. And basically, he was identified with his treasures. And he could not take that next step into the fourth initiation. Know, express, reveal, destroy. See, DK gives 5 words about initiation. Know, it can be connected with the first initiation. Express, the second initiation. Reveal, the third initiation. And destroy, the fourth initiation. And then finally resurrect, you know. So, let's just say that it takes a lot of courage to be on the path, and it takes a lot of courage to pass through this fourth initiation. And we get a kind of warm-up practice. We get practice when we go through the second initiation. That's why so many people, I have friends, they were going through the fourth initiation, but really, probably, they were undergoing the emotional tests for the second initiation. That's the probability. And one very great example is in the books from this disciple, ISGL. Okay, so we have to keep things with a sense of proportion. We have to learn. Now, here's the key. How do you dare give up everything that you think is you? How do you dare to do that? Tuija, would you like to give us an example?
Yes. I was just thinking about that, the more one is advancing and is going through different experiences in oneself and starting to learn really that this outer thing is, even though it is important, but it is something what will be given up. There is no other way. So I think one part of it is this growing demand and also growing yearning for that this what is outer, it just does not interest anymore. But then when we are in those real moments, these authentic moments when the thing could happen, do we dare to step into that unknown? And that is when I have been contemplating about, for some reason or another, the Gethsemane story from my childhood on has been so doing something to me. I don't know what it did, but I was always thinking with some kind of distress in my heart that the disciples were sleeping. Of course, when I was child, I couldn't think about that, okay, they are disciples and he is the master. No, I was just thinking about this unfairness of this, that the others are sleeping when the other one is tortured. And in that sense that having also, when thinking about my life, having those moments, what has been very drastic, and not knowing what one should be doing. So just having those little perspective of those my own personal moments, that when we are in this authentic moment, when we really don't know what path to take, where we should be going, and yet there is this some kind of pain mixture with joy of being connected, what is within, which is much more appealing than just the outer horrors. So in that pain, I have been thinking about that it is some afterwards, I mean, that it is so huge gift and privilege to have those things, because they make us very real. In those things we don't have any pride. We are really on our knees if everything is taken away. And I don't know, is that do I then dare to go forward? It is just that the life moves on and something will happen to you. And those things what are happening in our minds in those moments that we decide something, they are the authentic things. To which way we are then going? Do we then choose our soul way? Do we choose our personality way? More trying to protect ourselves. I think that in very real moments we don't have any idea about the daring or being brave.
Yeah, Master Moria has a little book that's inside Agni Yoga, only 3 pages, and he calls it the Book of Daring.
Right.
And here's how you do it according to him. There's this, first of all, who do you think you are? See, this is the foundational thing. So in this little book of daring, he says about just a small disciple, and the least of these turned to the heavenly stars and said, "Hail, brothers." And in this salutation of daring, his ego vanished.
Yeah, I think that is the key thing, that in those moments, where do our mind travel? Does it travel towards the God, or does it travel to our pity self?
In other words, with what are we identified? It's much easier to be daring if we are identified with the reality within us. DK would call it the immortal God. If we are identified with the immortal God within us, then all this that we were attached to, it's not us anymore. The us will live, but all these other things, they may go. So DK gives 4 words which are like instructions. He says, will, to know, to dare, to be silent.
Yeah.
So the monad wills, the soul knows, the personality dares, and the vehicles are silent. Now, if we follow those 4 words, we can succeed.
You know, it's always very important to know, in theory, things.
Yeah.
But then comes the real moment, and these are
and then you find out who you are.
Yeah, and I think one thing also is that the depth of our own love. If we have love enough, like Christ says, that turn the other cheek, but we can do that to our own self as well. That these tendencies in us when we want to somehow force our way or take our place. But if there is enough love in us, that helps to accept unchanging situations. Because every one of us, we have those things that we just cannot change it, what is outer.
Yeah. And that's St. Francis's prayer, isn't it? You know, in Alcoholics Anonymous AA, what does he say? We have to have the wisdom, I would say at least the courage to change the things we can, and the acquiescence to recognize what we cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And when we can really change something, we go in, but part of wisdom is to know, wait a second. Like there are many healers, you know. They've got to make the patient better just for their own ego. They've got to be successful. But maybe the soul says it's time for that patient to go. And the wisdom has to be there to discriminate. Is it time to go? Or can you stay? You know. So we have to have that discernment, that discrimination, we might say, in all of these decisions. Now I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to stick to the schedule. We have a 15-minute break, and then we continue with this particular work.
Do you see how advanced Michael is? The whole week has made a difference in him.
It's been
Michael is following the schedule.
Yes, you get me to follow the schedule. This is pretty good. And I'm only a few minutes late. So let's take 15 minutes. I'll do something here, and we'll come back and we'll continue to discuss just the slightest little bit. I mean, DK has these marvelous references, and there's no way we could spend a week on any one of them. Okay. All right, we'll take a little break. 15 minutes.
Michael, can you make bigger?
Yeah. But hold on. Whoa. Oh.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I can make it bigger.
Yeah, I was just thinking that how easy it is to be done.
That's big, but now you won't even see it because it's not yet. Not yet.
Because then it would be easier to read the little text. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a help. Okay, and I'll turn my picture off, and I got to get something to eat. I haven't had anything to eat this whole morning. How do we do that? No, it's this. So here's the question. Where's the... Ah, here it is.
Batteries. Maybe do something in batteries.
Okay, but these are... would you kindly ask Annalie for 2 AA batteries? What's happening? Hanoi. Ah, okay. Okay, but can you write that down somewhere, because I just can't do that right this moment. Yeah, I would appreciate. I'm going to go in there and yeah. You write down Anne's details. Test, test. All right. Here we go again. Seems to be working at the moment. There's all kinds of little things that can go wrong, you know. Even not plugging in the computer or not having batteries. Those little things can happen. God grant me the serenity. That's it, Alex. Serenity. Serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yes, okay. That's the key. Serenity prayer. In AA, they use that all the time, you know. And it's so perfect somehow. All right, let's see what we have. Now, I have a feeling that I should spend a little more time on the fourth initiation rather than the fifth, sixth, and seventh. At least being a member of the fourth kingdom and a group of fourth monads, we have some relation to this fourth initiation. Think about what our sign is as a monadic group. We are ruled by the same ray that rules the law of sacrifice. Fourth ray. If you study the laws of the soul, you will see the law of sacrifice is ruled by the fourth ray. And now, to make matters worse, our sign as a group of monads is Scorpio. Now, Scorpio knows something about sacrifice, wouldn't you say? Scorpio is where you relinquish what is lesser for what is greater. If you happen to be a good third-rate type, you save some money, and instead of spending the money, you invest the money, and then, even though you can't use it, it comes up with something more later. That's what Scorpio is all about. The giving up of lesser things for greater things. The pairs of opposites is configured and understood by the fourth ray. Let's just say that one of them is the lesser of the pairs of opposites and one of them is the greater. Give up the lesser for the greater. DK says that would mean you were living according to the essential. And he says, do that. And of course, so many of us, and I include myself here, we don't always put first things first. You know, I remember, I think I told you that I was studying this material 50 years ago. Yes, 50 years ago. Or just about. And it said that those who want to express their soul, which is a perfectly good thing, cannot be used to prepare for the reappearance of the Christ. I think I had to sit down, you know, or something. It was a big statement. If you're interested in your own, exclusively, let's say, self-expression from your higher soul powers or whatever, it's not the same thing as the sacrifice required to do exactly what the hierarchy has to do for the divine plan, which was to prepare for the reappearance of the Christ. So there's more and more sacrifice at every step until you just give everything. Yes, dear. Hold on. Let's make sure you get, yeah, there, you're on.
Yeah, I was thinking this is really, really important statement to think about it, because if you think of that how many advices you have been getting during your own little life, only this what, 60 years, 70 years. How many advices your friends and all kinds of people are giving you what you should do? And this is something about that every one of us, we have to know about it. Where we need to serve. What is that thing where we need to serve? And why hierarchy is saying that they are interested of these of little people, because they have the correct heart attitude. There's something about this, what I am understanding at the moment, why Christ needs those. If you think about yourself and you try to create a group, so how many of those are really willing to do what the group needs? What is that work? What comes, because it is so that work always will teach us what it needs. How many are willing to do that? Because what Christ needs at the moment is groundwork, and not about these shining stars. They come maybe later, but at the moment it is about those who have a stamina to continue and cultivate themselves, that they are ready to work according to those impulses of the need. And that's why I think it is a huge thing to contemplate about that, when one has gained a lot of skills and you can do many things which are wonderful, but is that, when we think about the larger group, is that really what is needed now? Big thing to think.
Yeah, you know, DK says a funny thing. He says, so often it is the non-spectacular person who really makes the grade. Whereas the person, you know, who has all these abilities, it's a bit like the story of the tortoise and the hare, the turtle and the rabbit. The rabbit has everything except one thing, and that is the persistence. See, so DK is looking for a lot of non-spectacular people to do this work and spread it in humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, and one clamors is about numbers. That it is that human mind cannot help its functioning. It is so occupied about the outer things that, how many are the numbers? We need to reach numbers, but if the group which is working is not doing their job in that, like for instance, this kind of steady rhythmic meditation together, there one starts to see already how many things it is that, well, I have to go there, I have to do that. Yes, sometimes, but when we start to learn the rhythms of the life, then we change our own life according to that, where we need to be. And not so that the greater group is waiting that when one has gone to the dentist or one has to go to a movie or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to, I'm really trying to make this function. And somehow I'm trying to get what's on this on this screen over to this screen. But anyway, let's just assume that it's going to happen somehow. All right, so let's look at a few of the things that he says. In the East, perhaps the great renunciation is not quite so bloody as in the West, because we have the connection here with crucifixion. They call it renunciation in the East and crucifixion in the West, and we associate it with death and torture. And DK says neither concept is the true one. Neither concept gives the true understanding. And finally it did work. I just had to wait a little bit. And so for every Aries type, you have to learn to be patient. Okay, so now symbols fight with each other. It's an amazing thing, you know. Even though the cross is a great astronomical symbol, people bring it right down to a low level. And then we have the star and the crescent, and the star and the crescent are fighting with the cross. It doesn't make sense because everything is needed. It's Venus and the moon. See, and Venus is supposed to be the winner over the moon. So this AAB is telling us crucifixion means to fix on a cross. Now look, we're all on a cross, just psychologically, spiritually, and if we really start to study decay and the work of the hierarchy, it's a signal that we are making the transition from the last part of the mutable cross, you know, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, onto the fixed cross. When we are a real disciple, when we are a true aspirant, and remember that every true aspirant has taken the first initiation, then we can say, I am standing on the fixed cross. So let that be our goal. Sometimes we kind of, you know, go back and forth. Just like with a planetary ruler. Suppose I tell you in the age of Aquarius, Uranus will be very important for everybody, but Jupiter will rule for disciples. Jupiter in relation to Aquarius. But people go back and forth, until they fix themselves on that cross. And they don't get off that cross anymore, which means they always deal with those four energies and trying to do better and better, understanding, receiving, expressing those energies. One day we want to have complete contact with the monad until we actually become that monad. Before that, complete contact with the soul until we know ourselves to be the soul. That's where we are now. Now, when you are an initiate of the fourth degree, you know yourself to be the spiritual triad. That's the real ego. That's the real soul. So here he talks about the crosses, which I think is very interesting. You know, there's so many interesting things. Most human beings are emotional, maybe 80%. They are fixed, they are polarized in their emotional vehicle. The mutable cross, you all know astrology, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. The mutable cross governs the three worlds, and this is interesting, and the astral plane in particular, where just about everybody is focused. On this cross, the average man is, quote, crucified until he achieves the needed experience and consciously reorients himself to another phase of unfoldment. In other words, he faces the Orient. He faces the sun. He faces a more radiant sun. We're always facing a more radiant sun. The sun of personality, the sun of the soul, the sun of the monad. Every great being is like a sun. And so when the wisdom and the light come from the east, we reorient, we face the east again, and we face the east again, always for a new and brighter sun. You know, speaking figuratively or poetically. Now, this is what we're interested in. Especially, well, why I'm talking about this is there's a very special thing that happens here at the fourth initiation, and it involves the crosses. The fixed cross governs the 5 worlds of human development and conditions the experience of all disciples. And what this means is that the Buddhic world and the Atmic world are always also included. And basically it is called the 5 worlds of human and superhuman evolution. So while you're on the fixed cross, fixed cross, it is lasting until the 3rd initiation and a little beyond. Through the discipline and experiences thus gained while on this cross of the soul, and this is us, this is what we're doing, the disciple passes from one renunciation to another until complete freedom and liberation has been achieved. So the whole story here is we have to give up lesser things to experience the greater things, because otherwise it's like suppose you're in a dark room, and this is oftentimes what Master DK talks about. You're in a darkened chamber, a dark room, and someone says, why don't you open the door, because outside the birds are singing and the trees are growing and the sun is shining and the rain comes and it's a better place. He says, no, I'm going to stay inside my dark room. I like this. I don't want to go outside. This is the story of many, many people who don't want to take the risk to go into an unknown area, even though that area is going to be many times more wonderful than where we are. Sometimes I listen to DK talk about death, and he says this, that we have to discover, these are amazing words, the eternally lovely secret of death. The eternally lovely secret of death. It's like, another room. It's another room. And there's always going to be another space. That's why all temples have to be destroyed. You got a beautiful temple. It has to fulfill its purpose, because beyond it is something even greater, a new temple. Beyond the tabernacle in the wilderness is the Temple of Solomon. Beyond the Temple of Solomon is the Temple of Ezekiel. And beyond the Temple of Ezekiel, who knows what? We don't know. But it's always greater and greater and more beautiful. Yes, Tuya?
Yeah, I think about this exactly like that, about the identification when we are so occupied in our minds about our bodily expression. So we, down to earth, we leave that, we must use that. But then when we need to really think about it, if there has been experiences that you have been near death experience yourself, or some your family member, or that you have fought for life. So when last year when Michael was in coma in the hospital, and there was this experience in my life so profound, and I have said that I fell in love with death. It's something, again, when we think about those moments of difficulties, that we are really on our knees, the same way when you cannot do anything. This greater life is just above you or within you and beside you, come to meet you. And then it's really, the experience was about this extreme beauty of life, a majestic life. So what DK says, I think it is exactly about that, because then we finally can really be in life. We are with that life, this great life. And because there is nowhere to go but to land in the life. In that spirit we are. And this illusion with the body, what comes, or whatever are the vehicles, is that the outer body, or then the egoic body, or whatever body, but
Yeah,
just
it's always body.
that what we need.
Yeah.
But this who we are is so much greater, is so much vaster, and this spirit, because we are spirit, and those moments when we somehow are touched by it, or it takes us, they are so great, huge, wonderful, like hitting the head. In Zen tradition, that the master is hitting your head, that you would get the point, and it is exactly like that. It is just majestic life, and that's why I somehow in my tiny little way can understand what Tibetan might be saying in that. This
I want to ask you, knowing what Tuya just said about Zen practice, what planet do you think is involved? Yeah, well, that's part of it, I'm sure. And I was thinking about good old Vulcan, the hammer, the staff. You're thinking too much. Bang, you know, because you're just going around and around and around in your thoughts, and the intuition, the Uranus can't get in. See, so hit them on the head and they stop and say, oh. There's even a thing called Zen sickness. The candidate gets so upset about not being enlightened that they just go into this feverish state, you know, and finally it subsides. And the old story is that even a fly can be the enlightener. We read about, what was it, one of the great Tibetan sages, was it Padmasambhava? Someone like that, enlightened by a fly. Well, you never know. I mean, it's like the old mystics, they say, if you can see something in God, it's so different than just seeing it in the normal world. So any little thing that's not worth anything, if seen in God, is worth more than all the treasures that are not seen or understood in God. So it's the profound mystical realization.
Yesterday we were in this a symbolic meditation when we went through the third decree, or we were studying it. There was something to remember about the body, how important is the body. That in the body we gain the enlightenment, and that is the story which is about the Mary who is glorified by the Christ. So there's all of that because the outer is needed, the form is needed. Otherwise we would not have that, if the God would not be looking that the form is needed. And in that form all these secrets are happening, the mystery is happening, but it has to be glorified. Think what Mary is glorified, and that's the goal.
We cannot leave anything out. You know, that's the big second ray thing. You've got to include everything. Include it all. That's another pill. Include whatever. Says the Tibetan, naught is but me. And he means naught. Nothing is, but it is me. Nothing. I was walking with my son one day, and he's kind of a philosopher, and I was trying to explain this, and we were, talking, and we came upon a place where they were just fixing the road, and you put the black tar down on the road. We call it asphalt. And so he said, I'm saying, well, everything is us. And he said, even the asphalt? He thought he was making a joke. But yeah, even the asphalt. I think I'm going to write a little story one day called Even the Asphalt. You can't leave anything out, good or bad. It's all what we are. Not individually, but it's what we are essentially. Now, how do you get to that? So I've had these programs called Identify as Being. And I get excited, then I do it for about 2 or 3 months, and I have other things, and I come back to it. But that's what we have to learn how to do. Get beyond saying, here I am, this is what I am, and we enter a different state of realization. Well, anyway, it's certainly happening to the 4th degree initiate. So we are giving up one thing after another. Now, I'm sure you all have experiences of giving up lesser things for greater things. Only at the time, you probably thought you were giving up greater things for lesser things. That's how it works. Everything that we've been attached to, we say, oh, I can't give that up. That's so important to me. And it turns out that it's not that important. And that something else comes in that is more important. I've made some decisions in my life, painful, and whatever I was giving up looked so big, and then it started to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink when the new possibilities dawned on me. So it takes a lot of courage to give up what we are attached to, because it's glamour. We make it too big. In my own mind, I've made glamour some kind of easy thing to understand. It's either too big or too little. I just really want to understand glamour, I'm making little things too big and big things too little. I'm out of proportion. So inevitably, proportion comes along, and then you have humility, an adjusted sense of right proportion. Now look, here we are taking the 3rd initiation. We did that yesterday, right? Okay. We did that, yesterday. So now we're talking about the cardinal cross. And the cardinal cross, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, governs the master of the 5th degree as he passes through the remaining 5 initiations. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The master has to pass through 5, and the cardinal cross governs him. But the 4th initiation, and this is what I want us to somehow understand, the 4th initiation is, curiously enough, governed by neither the fixed cross nor the cardinal cross. You're on your own. Dark night of the soul, the whole thing. The disciple is descending from the fixed cross and trying to find, where is the cardinal cross? I want to get on the cardinal cross. And it is this transition period and experience which governs him. And it's a difficult period of no man's land. I don't know where I am. I'm lost, really, on neither one of the great crosses. It might therefore be noted that there are three initiations which test the disciple as to knowledge and experience, the first, the second, and third, and then there comes the initiation of transition, followed by 5 initiations which the Master undergoes on the Cardinal Cross. Now look, there is already an initiation called transition. Do you know which one it is? I'm going to show you, if I can possibly make this work. I always like it when you hit the keyboard and a letter or number appears. Here it is. And you see the numerological connection. Do you see transition? And maybe it just is coming up now, right? Transition. Initiation number 8. I go to the astral plane, I come back from the astral plane. I go to the astral plane, I come back from the astral plane. Cosmic astral. Like this. I'm making my transition onto the cosmic astral plane. Now notice how this works. We were just talking about transition in terms of the 4th initiation. Well, look at the numerology. 2 4s are 8. There's a relationship there. So the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd initiations are on the fixed cross. And if you're going to be in the world of initiation, it's got to be or the world of wisdom, and you have to be on the fixed cross. You can't do it otherwise. You do not take the big initiations on the mutable cross. You take something, a little preparatory initiation, another little preparatory initiation, but it's not the same thing as the great monastic initiations, which begin on the fixed cross. Okay. And then comes an initiation of transition, but later on, another transition, even higher. The 4th initiation leads you to become a true member of the hierarchy, a real master. The 8th initiation makes it possible for you to go to the cosmic astral plane and prepare for your big journey on the way of higher evolution. So sometimes things are called by the same name, and they're not the same thing. For instance, if you talk to any Christian and you ask him, when did the resurrection occur? Well, which resurrection? You know, Christ was resurrected, so he died, he went into the tomb, and he rose from the dead, and he talked to his disciples. That was resurrection. Later will come the judgment day. And how would you like to be? I often think about this. Would you like to have the body you now have for all eternity? Forever. I think there might be some limitations in that. So, you know, the pictures of the resurrection, the trumpet will sound, not jazz trumpet, but a good, solid military trumpet, and all the graves will open up, and all of those dead bodies will rise in order to be judged and converted into some form that's more like, it's a ghastly picture. It's just a horrible picture. And no, not true. Not true. But how is it that people can believe it? because they identify with the body. This is the whole thing. And this is what occultism and Raja Yoga teach. Disidentify with the body and with all of the other personality vehicles. Finally, disidentify with the causal body. Keep on disidentifying until you get your final body, which is the universe itself, and then disidentify with the universe. And that's another thing. And that will put us on the other side into the world of true infinite reality. Okay. So anyway, this is how DK sees it. You're on your own, and I think Jesus, on the way up to Mount Golgotha, had to carry his own cross, and someone helped him. I forget how that story goes, but it's a beautiful story. But he had to, it's very heavy. He had to drag his own cross, and they're beating him and all the rest. That's the fourth initiation. You're not supported in the usual way. You're on your own. You have a dark night of the soul. The suffering of humanity dawns upon your soul, like we read the other day, and you see all the trouble in the human family, and you have to figure out what you're going to do about it. And it has to do then with the bodhisattva impulse. We become a bodhisattva and we turn around and we save. Now, a lot of pilgrims, they carry a staff, a walking stick, right? It's a long trip, carry the walking stick. So some of the Pratyeka Buddhas, they just carry a straight stick. First ray, they're on their way, they get there. The second ray Buddha has a stick that goes like this. This is called a crook. And it's in the old days when you're a shepherd. One of the sheep is wandering somewhere. Come back. Come back. The shepherd's crook. And the bodhisattva has a staff with the shepherd's crook. And in the rules of the road, it talks about how we should have a crook to hold. Maybe it's not for everybody, but there's always going to be, in the Messiah, the great music, there's a song called "All we like sheep have gone astray, every one to his own way." And it's a wonderful song. They should try Cats sometime. Talk about trying to get cats to cooperate. But anyway, the sheep have to be kept inside the sheepfold. Now, the little bear and the big bear are called sheepfolds. The lesser ashram and the greater ashram. And we're the sheep. We have to be kept inside the sheep pen, or we're just going to jump out and, diminish our possibilities. All right. So, boy, are we making progress. I think we've done 2 pages here, and maybe not. Well, what's going on that cardinal cross, where you have initiation 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Well, we're not there yet, okay. On the fixed cross, where we are, we get group consciousness. On the mutable cross, self-consciousness. I'd say a lot of our politicians are still on the mutable cross, as powerful as they may seem. Every once in a while you see somebody who has really made the grade. Like we're told that Abraham Lincoln was an avatar, a racial avatar evoked by the soul of the nation, called forth by the soul of the nation. Now, look at Nelson Mandela. It could have been the most horrible thing, the transition. And even now, you have a lot of people pushing for revenge against the white farmers and white whoever, and it's not Mandela anymore. It's ordinary people wanting revenge. And they've been killing the white farmers and so forth in South Africa. But not everybody thinks like Lincoln. It was a great, great man. Now, obviously, there's an initiate, a pretty high initiate, and he's making a big sacrifice for his country. Now, our present president has a very inflated self-consciousness. Maybe a lot of presidents do. But, it's been said sometimes you can't see beyond your own self. We talked the other day, this really handsome young man, Narcissus, he just loves his own image, which he sees in the water, and he just falls in love with it and gets closer and closer, and he falls in and he drowns. So that's that inflated self-consciousness. But if you read the second inaugural address of Lincoln, it's so healing for the North and the South, binding up the nation's wounds with malice towards none and charity for all. This was a high soul. Third degree, even, who knows? Going on to the fourth degree, maybe, who knows? But on the fixed cross, we start to care about more than ourselves. We really care about our group. We care about our nation. We care ultimately about humanity on the real fixed cross. Now, if we're on the cardinal cross, and that's where, when we take the fourth degree, we're looking in that direction, then the master there is distinguished by universal consciousness, which passes finally into cosmic consciousness, a state of being unknown to you. I love it. Even in the wildest flights of your imagination. In the old days, there were authors, and they talked about cosmic consciousness and all that. Probably just an expanded soul consciousness, but they made it into cosmic consciousness. There's this book called, Cosmic Consciousness. It's by a man by the name of Buck, B-U-C-K-E or something. And do you know, how many are familiar with the poetry of Walt Whitman? Yeah. Oh boy. Now he was Leo moon, sun in Gemini, and Taurus rising. And he has a poem, it's 100 pages long, maybe, and it's called Song of Myself. And it's just wonderful. It's not about himself at all, as a limited little being. It's about himself in everybody. And Buck, who wrote Cosmic Consciousness, was one of his disciples. So anyway, a big expansion of consciousness occurs, but it's not cosmic consciousness. Just, we're ignorant, so we call it by a big thing. Some people say, okay, come on over to my house, we're having a cosmic meditation. Okay, to them it's cosmic, but really, in proportion, it's not that. But it's heading in the right direction. So on the cardinal cross, and at the fourth degree, when we have fulfilled our goal by entering the cosmic etheric body of our solar logos, we begin to look towards cosmic consciousness, and he says the first hint of the growth of cosmic consciousness comes when the disciple passes through the sixth initiation of decision. So he determines then, by means of his enlightened will and not his mind, which of the 7 paths he will decide to follow. And by the way, there are now 9 paths. Go to page 412 of the Rays and the Initiations. You discover 9 paths. He doesn't tell you much about anything about the other 2. So anyway, he makes the decision at the initiation of decision, and from that time on, the consciousness of the greater life, which enfolds our planetary logos, as he enfolds humanity within his consciousness, increasingly controls the attitude, the awareness, and activities of the Master. So in a way, we're sort of talking about initiation 4 and 5 here in a loose kind of way. What happens after you have a supernova? Everything explodes. Can you see through all the debris? Maybe not. So the transition period between initiation 4 and 5 is clearing away the results of the explosion at the 4th degree. And then, when you can see, what's the name of the 5th initiation? Remember? The revelation. So you have the, what is number 3? It's the transfiguration, enlightenment, illumination, satori, you know. Then comes crucifixion, renunciation. Then comes revelation. And it's interesting what is revealed. What would you think might be revealed to the Master at the initiation of revelation?
Well, there are, in initiation process, there are always these few revelations, which are just expanding and expanding. So this is certainly about the how one is related to the greater plan, and that what is in the mind of Sanat Kumara, revealing. He revealed that, and he talks about these very complicated things, how the revelation is consisting the mysteries of the earth scheme, how the Master is related then to this globe, and the what does he say? The globe and the earth scheme, and how it is related, his particular.
Yeah, there are many secrets
to the evolution of the solar logos.
Yeah.
So it is a huge revelation of that part.
Remember, the sun is the symbol of sight. Now you've got, and the 5th ray is ruling vision. Now you've got the 5th initiation. So it's the will to rule, and what's the other will? The will to know? Not exactly. Will to rule, will to illumine. Will to illumine. So you see a lot at the 5th initiation, and the main thing you see is the 7 paths before you.
You know, I'm wondering about this when we think about the monadic plane and then the 5th plane. So there must be something in relationship to 5th plane, some kind of vehicle.
Well, there is.
Vehicle, we'd say. I'm just thinking about these planes when we move towards the kingdom of souls, then the egoic lotus is moving also its position. And then I think that it has to happen something in relationship to the atomic plane, that there must be something how the movement is also happening in that initiation, because now we are perfected. He says the evolution of senses ending to the third plane, but it cannot be that plane. I think it has to be the second of the atomic plane. What do you think?
Well, in an old Masonic paper, which DK gave to some of his students who were Masons, there is a vehicle on the third subplane of the atomic plane. And it gets destroyed, just like the causal body does. And then you can go into the monadic plane.
Yeah, because it's like that we move really into the different kingdom. It's said that when we move to the sixth plane, we become planetary lives. When we are Johans, we are planetary lives. Under that, we are still like humans.
Right. They are no longer men, as are the masters, but have linked themselves with the great council in the highest secret place. So they linked with Shambhala, they are a planetary life. So all of our spirituality is a moving up and at the same time down this cosmic physical plane. Even the Christ, even the Buddha are still evolving on the cosmic physical plane. So that's a long period before us, before we fulfill our spiritual potential. There was a fellow, nice guy, he comes to the conference. For the last several years, he's been a master and has taken the 5th initiation. Last year, he took the 7th initiation. Just like the Christ and the Buddha, only he probably finished it. What do I say? Hey, it's nice to see you here. What do I say? The lack of proportion. When we study the material, we have needs. We have needs to be more than we are. We don't want to see ourselves the way we are. Now, at the 4th degree, you really see yourself as you are. The man who thought he was taking the 4th initiation might have been taking the 2nd, and DK said, no, 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 no. If you're taking the 4th initiation, you see everything clear-eyed. Now, right now, you're overwhelmed by emotion, and you're mad at your students, and they're mad at you, and you're swept off your feet by glamour. That's not the 4th initiation. And then it's a big privilege, too. You can't just say, oh, yeah, I want to take the 4th initiation. It has to be granted to you that you are ready to do that. So we do have a future here, and we will move forward to an understanding of what it means to renounce everything we thought we were, only to discover that those are just our instruments and we are really something else. Let's see if there's any...
I would like to ask one question. Do you remember any occasion in your life that you have really smelled the glamour and felt the energy?
Smelled glamour?
Yeah.
Or smelled the monad?
No, don't go there.
Don't go there yet, okay.
Have you been in situation? Because when we say everything is glamour still in our lives, but there is like glamour which belongs to that evolutionary stage. But then there is so really glamorous things which is related to spiritual life. I want to define still that. So, okay, what is that kind of a smell? What is that kind of sense quality? Because I was
smelling glamour.
Nee.
Not like vinegar. I don't know.
Yes,
what is it?
Yeah. So you can smell that, yeah?
What did she say?
Stinky. More stinky. Stinky.
What is stinky?
The smell. Stinky.
Oh, stinky. I was thinking of Helsinki. Okay, yeah, stinky. It's like a dog or a cat has been living in the same place for a month.
Well, no, it's really different. It is. I was once in giving a lecture, and there comes this kind of, bless his soul, but so clamored person about the importance of human being. How all the gods are almost bowing to humans because the human being is taking such a sacrifice of coming here, but in real sense they are the highest thing in the all cosmos and so forth. And his eyes, it was like veils after veils in the eyes, and this force. I've sensed that it is like tingling around my aura when this comes. It's like a little needles, and I'm sure that every one of us, we have a different senses, but it was like I don't have any air. It started to squeeze my neck, and it's like afterwards you want to throw up. So I mean, really, those kinds of clamors which are dangerous. They not this normal clamors what we all have, but I mean those which are really dangerous clamors to your path, because they are so off, and this kind of thing can make you, because you are swept by it so strongly that there comes no mirror. When you think about Venus, who has the mirror, and you have to mirror yourself, the soul is mirroring oneself. So if there is missing that part in oneself, that everything can go through, and particularly that one is so extremely important and extremely high, and nothing can work without you. They are dangerous, because then you are never ever looking yourself that you would advance or you would correct yourself, because everything, that's why goes, you are so important that you are taking a sacrifice. And
it's wild, isn't it? I think, you can encounter some of these forces on the astral plane which are very unpleasant. And you can encounter terrible smells. And I think the scariest dream I ever had was I opened a door, nothing was there, and I heard this chord of music, which was the most terrifying chord I ever heard in my life. I couldn't reproduce it, but it embodied everything that was evil. And, it was sound. Just very different from the beautiful angels are singing. It was just like, it took me back. I woke up immediately, had to get out of there.
Yeah. TK says about that I and Alice have a horror
of glamour.
Of glamour.
Yes.
And there is that experience, even though this, when one tells about it, it does not sound so dangerous. But when I was near it, everything in me wanted to escape, because that was the horror in me of the power of that something what had been manifested.
I'm just going to read a little more, because in order to stay on schedule, we have to stop in a few minutes. The crucifixion initiation has a major instructive feature. This is preserved for us in the name which is frequently given to this fourth initiation, the Great Renunciation. One tremendous experience is vouchsafed, given to the initiate at this time. One tremendous experience. He realizes, because he sees and knows, that the Antakarana has been successfully completed, and there is a direct line of energy from the spiritual triad via the Antakarana to his mind and brain. I suppose especially from the Buddhic level. And then you see something horrible. Okay. At least frightening. This experience, this brings to the forefront of his consciousness the sudden and appalling recognition that the soul itself, the egoic body on its own level, and that which for ages has been the supposed source of his existence, and his guide, and his mentor, is no longer needed. His relation as a soul-infused personality is now directly with the monad. So the angel of the presence has done its own job. The solar angel has done the job. And we are connected up with what we really are, the monad. He feels bereft. It means like everything is taken away from you. He feels bereft and is apt to cry out, as did the Master Jesus, but not the Christ, the Master Jesus, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Now, what happens? What's really interesting, not only is the causal body being destroyed, but the solar angel is leaving him. And he's a god. And the solar angel is going back to the heart of the sun, or maybe to the central spiritual sun. The solar angel is returning to the solar logos. And that's what it means. My God, who I've been consulting with all of these lives, what does my angel say, etc., is going away, and I'm on my own. Again, I'm on my own. That's the characteristic of this fourth initiation. Heaven is not helping me. Earth is not helping me. Humanity just kicked me out. And heaven is not yet responding to me. And I have to do it myself. Fortunately, we can. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? But nevertheless, he makes the needed renunciation. He dares to do it. And the causal body, the soul body, is relinquished, given up. This is the culminating renunciation and the climaxing gesture of ages of small renunciations. All the little ones we say, I'll give that up. Yes, I'll give that up. All the little ones prepare for this moment. Renunciation marks the career of all aspirants and disciples. Now notice what he says. Renunciation consciously faced and understood and consciously made. So, do we have any thoughts that we would, like to examine in this respect? Any thoughts, any reactions? We're all going to go through this, and we're on our own, and we become the monad, which we always have been, and the solar angel has done a big service by linking us up that way, and then we handle it ourselves. thoughts? Any thoughts that you would like to bring forward? Any questions that you have? And that would apply to whomever. There are some here watching with us. If you have a question or a comment, you can write it down. Does it help you to see ahead? To know where you are going? You know, I mean, you know, is it better than you're going to die and go to heaven or hell? What do you think? I mean, you know, I think heaven could turn into a hell because it's just a whole lot of sameness about playing the harp and wearing a robe. I mean, some people literally, not everybody, of course, but they believe this. Harps and robes, just like an angel. There was this funny movie with Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep, and on the day he got his new Mercedes, he looked down to change the CD, and he crashed into a truck. So next thing you know, he's in heaven, and you can eat all you want and never get fat. You can do all kinds of earthly things in this heaven, but an implied reincarnation. It was very interesting because the idea was they would always send you back on the train. You had to go back. But Meryl Streep kind of...
He was balancing.
He was what, dear?
Before he was balancing.
Yeah.
Was something he, yes,
something he had to do to fix. Of course, he was nowhere near a fourth-degree initiate, believe me. He was a very funny guy, but he wasn't fourth degree. So finally, but they decided he didn't have to go back after all. At the end, Meryl Streep helped him somehow, and he could stay. Now, our vision of the future is pretty dull if you think about what humanity has cooked up for its future. And the beautiful thing about the ageless wisdom, it keeps you going eternally in terms of magnificent possibilities. It's inspiring. You can do those things. You can achieve those things. You are those things. And we can spread the word on that matter. There's many big questions that are not answered. Why does the universe exist at all? And, you know, there's so many different answers to it. And I don't know that any one of them can be understood by what we've got. But the ageless wisdom, which must win the day by the end of the 21st century, has got a lot of great answers that can inspire people, keep them from doing stupid things, keep them from messing up their karma, help them be more helpful to others. You know, the old saying is, you make your bed, you're going to lie in it, right? It's a karmic statement. And the tree you plant now, you will appreciate later because it'll be there, okay? So we just have to realize we are eternal beings on our way to greater and greater glory until we re-become what we always have been. And a question. What's the name of the movie? Would you know? It's been a lot of years, Alex. Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. And it's about heaven and reincarnation. So I can't answer that. What's it called? Defending Your Life? And it's called Defending Your Life. Okay, she says Defending Your Life. I'm a little hard of hearing. Actually, I'm a lot hard of hearing. So I just want to make sure I get the right word. Defending, right? And he, as it were, he went on trial, just like in the Egyptian mysteries. You know, Osiris is led, well, Tuya knows about this, all about this, but into the chamber of judgment. And if Osiris does not have a heart which is as light as a feather, the crocodile eats his heart and back he goes into incarnation.
It's the feather of truth.
Ah,
The twelfth feather of
thoth.
Oh, no, it's a Maat. Okay, the feather of Maat.
Maat.
And Maat has always this feather in her forehead. So if you think about how to distinguish Isis and Maat, that the feather will distinguish it.
Ah, and you know the Native American people, they have these headdresses, all feathers. It's a link with the Deva kingdom and with the powers on the inner planes that allow you to fly, you know. It's go ahead.
I think when studying the iconography and looking this feather, how it is appearing here and there in different cultures, I think in maybe Atlantean times, it has been much more. There has been something else in the feather, what we don't know anymore, because of those hairdresses or the feather hairdresses. All of that are telling about that something, and it could be not knowing that, but when you think about this serpent, what is coming from the sun, Quetzalcoatl, in the South American traditions, he is called the serpent, plumed serpent. Is that plume? Plume is the feather, right?
Plume, plume. A plume, a pen, you see.
No, meaning the feather, because when you look the serpent, it's full of feathers. So maybe it is that tradition or something what was coming from Ibis, that where we have the relationship with the sun. So the feathers have some relationship with the sun. Horus is flying to the sun, but all of those traditions with something is flying towards the sun. And when you have them already somehow attached to you, is some kind of sign to you. We can think about this in Hindu mythology, in Buddhist mythology, the feather appears everywhere, and this feather of peacock is that in every single continent it has been the sign of the initiate, the great teacher. So if somebody brings for you the feather of peacock, that is the greatest honor, because you are looked like a great teacher. And the feather has the eye.
There are so many great pieces of knowledge and wisdom which have apparently been lost, or withdrawn, or held back because they were not used wisely. But if you put it all together, somewhere in humanity is a collection of many, many things which can clarify our way. If we will only use things wisely. What, dear? What?
You have the feather of the swan.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. All right, so that's going to be it for right now. And defending your life. Yep, something like that. That's it. That's correct. I don't know exactly what we'll do after lunch. We'll see. We've been doing some astrology here, but, you know, it's more for the people that are actually right here. And we'll see whether we continue with this. So just check your check this sort of screen and see whether we're going to continue into a number 3 or whether we're going to work a little bit more on astrology. And then we have
at 4.
We have a preparation. We have a purification sauna.
No, I am here at 4 p.m. Was it not so about Isis and Parasat?
Oh, you know what? Is that at 4? I've got the wrong. I'm sorry, I have the wrong. Mercury is retrograde.
Organized.
I'm allowed. Mercury is retrograde.
Okay, yes, it's Mercury.
Tuya is teaching at 4 o'clock Pallas Athene and Isis. And maybe it looks like we have some discussion of astrology that I think we will keep here unless we decide to discuss it in general. And if we discuss it in general, we'll make a note of it. Then we won't take the personal side of it.
And if it is, then it continues at 2 p.m. So 11 a.m.
Let's say, dear, 2:15. Is that okay? Is that okay? What do you say?
I'm not saying anything.
Okay. That's just so I can be conscious, okay? Continuing at 11:15 GMT, and we will see. Maybe what I can do is just speak about astrology in a general way, because we've been doing charts here for a while, and what we've been doing here, and it may be of interest to you, we have been looking at the first initiation and the second initiation. And we're saying, if I had this chart, my own chart, how would it apply to taking the first initiation? How might it apply to taking the second initiation? With the third, it's a little harder, but it still can be done. And I don't think we need to bother about taking the fourth initiation. Maybe if you have, like this, I know some people like this. The Sun in Leo with Scorpio rising and Pluto square your Sun. Maybe that will get rid of your causal body for you. Okay. All right. So we take a little break, and I'm going to try to put this up on the playlist so you can find it when you go to YouTube. When you go to YouTube. Okay. Thank you very much for.
Are we streaming still?
We are at the moment. Do you want me to turn it off? Yep. I'll just try to get this correct. Turn off the stream for the moment.